Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's installation video with my 4th gen Toyota Tacoma, it is time to install some underside protection for this truck. So laid out on the ground, I have all of the parts from Night Up. I'll have a link down in the description below where you can purchase all of these products. Let's start off with the 1/4-inch aluminum skid plate assembly. This is a full kit, so that way we can get plenty of protection up underneath the truck and all of the components that are underneath, as you will see. Next up, I have the steel frame-mounted rock sliders. These also have a step on them too. So with my lifted truck, it's definitely going to be much easier to enter and exit, and of course give us that protection up underneath. So with that breakover angle, we don't have to worry about damaging the truck. Those are going to hold up very, very well. And then last up, with the 4th gen Tacoma, you can actually remove the axle back portion of the exhaust. Unlike the 3rd gen, it was one solid exhaust system. We're gonna remove the last part of it and install this titanium axle dump exhaust. It weighs virtually nothing, but that is going to give us a better departure angle, and we can remove that silly looking exhaust on the side there. So I'm going to start underneath the truck with the skid plates. Now there's 2 that we need to remove, but for this very forward skid plate, you will be using a 12mm socket, and we can easily remove all 4 of these. You can easily see them, and with this factory skid plate, it doesn't look like it even weighs all that much. So something that is pretty flimsy here. Looks like I could probably bend this with my hands, just kind of a hard composite plastic. So with that one out of the way, we can start to remove, it looks like there's 4 holding this one in place. So we have 2 up front, and then just like the other one, 2 located in the back here. Before we can install the very first skid plate, we need to go ahead and install the billet jackpoint blocks. So these are going to fill in the space between the skid plate and the front cross member here, so that way you can actually still lift up the truck from the middle. This is essentially the front jack point. You could use the lower control arms, but if you want to be dead nuts in the middle, you need to install both of these. Now you'll notice I already have one of them installed on the left side, and I found there's a few different ways that you can install these. For the one on this driver's side, what I used was a stick magnet, which I have right here, and I taped the end of this to it, and then used a hole on the top section of this cross member in order to drop it straight down. So there was a plenty of space over here with the hole located right there that I could drop it straight through and gain access to it. Now another way would be to use this hole right here, and you can fish it up this way and in. Now on the passenger side, this hole is going to be a little bit trickier. Since my magnet stick is solid, I don't have enough space up in this area here to drop it straight down and get to this side, because the hole is located on the front side, this hole is located on the back side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape the end of this one to a clothes hanger here, and I'm going to fish it up through this hole right here. And so with the angle of the coat hanger, as you can see, I am slowly starting to lower that piece in. I can grab it and then work on ripping the coat hanger out. And then once you have those both in, you are going to take these blocks where you'll notice there's a cutout on both of them. So right in the middle, these are going to be the flat sides. You're going to have that huge indentation there and the huge indentation on the top, so that way this can actually fit and be nice and flush with the cross member, and then you'll have this cut out here, so that way the bolt can go farther up in and get a tighter fit. So you're going to line those up just like that and then snug both sides down. This does come with new hardware, and it measures a 13mm socket. So you just have to have a little bit larger of a size. When we put this on too, there is a washer, and we will have the washer right on the inside, of course, of this side. And then we just have to tighten all 4 of these down, and they will be torqued as well. So the torque specs are located in the instructions. I will also put them in the description below, so that way you can further see those. So I just have those loosely installed, at least to hold it up, just in case I do need to move it for whatever reason to line this one up. So I will torque all of them last, of course, so that way we can just get everything up and in place. And it looks like the front ones, you just need to use an extension. I can't reach my hand up in there, but the back ones we can at least line up by hand here. Once I get one of those in, then I can use my extension to hold this through the skid plate, because we do have this big gap here, and just a little narrow for my fingers. So It's a tight spot to work in. Luckily my truck is already lifted though, so you may have to put it up on some blocks or lift it just a little bit, but I seem to have plenty of room to easily work on this. And before we can install the last skid plate, there is a factory one right here that we do need to loosen. We'll be going back to the 12mm where we have two underneath, so just behind that middle skid plate. We can loosen those two, and then there's one way up in the corner here by itself. And so now with those bolts out of the way, this is going to be a little bit tricky, especially if you're doing it by yourself. But what I'm going to do is line up the back two bolts. Looks like there's only one spot for them to go. In this cross member, there's actually some threaded holes already. And with those two started, I'm going to slowly make my way to the front. Now it looks like I'm not going to be using any of the bolts right here. There's nothing above them to line it up. So I think 4 is just going to do for now. So this would be why it's important not to tighten those bolts in the back, because we actually have some wiggle room to line the front up properly. So with all of the bolts torqued down now for the skid plates, they match very nicely with my aluminum front bumper. You can see the same cutout design going all the way underneath. We have a lot of protection now for this truck. So now let's work our way to the rock sliders. We are looking at the bottom of it right now, because what I'm going to do, these are probably 70 to 80 pounds a piece. Doing this yourself, I'm going to be using a set of jack stands. I have my foam here just to give me a little bit more protection to help rest this on them. And that way it's going to give me a second hand to lift these up. Now we have all of the hardware here. You're only going to need two sizes, a 13 and a 16. There's only one that is an odd size for up front. If you have someone to help you out, great. If not, I am going to make this work as I did it on the other side and try to line this up as best I can. So that is step one, because now what I can do is slowly start to raise both of these and position it where I need to. I'm just going to start raising each jack to help get this in a closer spot. So from here, it doesn't really matter where you start. I just want to get in a few bolts on each side so that way I can lose the jack stands. Now I am going to keep them there, of course, for extra safety, but I can raise it up another one there, and now I should have pretty good access to these back bolts. So just start them all slowly by hand and go from there. All right, so I have 4 loosely started. You don't want to have them too tight because there's going to be 2 up underneath up front, and then you can move this forwards and backwards just depending on where the bolts line up. So you do have a little bit of wiggle room to go ahead and line up the rest of them, and then these will be torqued as well. So not all that bad by yourself. Starting to come together nicely. So the sliders are now installed, and it's time to peel off the plastic because that was a lot of hard work, and now they are on the truck. And honestly, for a step as well, I know my wife is really going to like this. You can actually get a good foot on there, so that way you can enter and exit, and then of course have that underside protection. One thing I also wanted to mention too, if you have a non-hybrid, you will use 6 bolts for that skid plate. So with the hybrid that I have, I'm not utilizing those middle 2, so this will fit non-hybrid models as well, along with a few other trim levels for the 4th gen. So now let's work our way to the titanium exhaust tip. This is going to be fairly easy to remove. As you can tell, it hangs down just slightly more than the TRD Pro that's also in the driveway here. So this is more prone to getting hit than being tucked up away like on the Pro. So what we're going to do, there's a hanger right here that I need to remove, and then there's 2 14mm bolts holding it to this section right there. And then with those bolts loosened for the 14mm, once you remove both of those, there's an additional hanger right here. Now, since this truck is pretty new, this is already sliding very nicely. So all I need to do is work its way, push it, working its way backwards, and I can pop this off. Now, if you have an older vehicle You can spray these with some liquid penetrant and then use a pair of vice grips or clamps. And that will give you a little bit more leeway. The older these are, the harder they get. And so the penetrant will help slide it on this steel. I'm gonna use 1 foot to push the exhaust towards the front of the truck. All right, and just like that, probably the easiest exhaust uninstall that I have done in quite some time. Now we just need to loop this around, figure out how to get it out of here. There we go. Yeah, not all that hard. And we can get this giant thing out of the way. So back underneath the truck, we will be reusing this hanger here. As you can tell, it's going to line up right there. And before installing this all the way, make sure you remove this factory ring first, and then you'll get a more flush fitment when we install this back on. Well, that definitely cleans up the rear end of the truck as well. I like when it's symmetrical on both sides, and we're mimicking more of the Trail Hunter with the axle dump exhaust there. Now, I know a lot of people don't like upgrading exhaust systems, so I took some before clips with the factory exhaust. So we'll listen to that. We'll listen to this new exhaust setup. And as you heard, not really much of a difference. So if you're looking for that factory sound and you want to eliminate that exhaust, this is a great exhaust tip option to go with, along with the side steps and the full skid plate to give you added protection off the pavement. So that's going to wrap it up for all of these products. Take a look at the link down in the description below so you can get all of these parts for your 4th Gen as well. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our daily uploads as well as the rest of the build for this truck. I'll see you all in the next video.